So we suck a lot of Taylor Sheridan dick here on this podcast, on this show. We're all big fans of his. We cover Yellowstone week to week. One of his current shows going on Paramount right now. Well, it's over. Tulsa King, starring Sylvester Stallone.
I kept my mouth shut for 25 years.
I don't know what you're expecting now that you're back.
I'm expecting adequate compensation.
Following his release from prison, mafia capo Dwight, the General Manfredi, is exiled to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he builds a new criminal empire with a group of unlikely characters. And as we said, this stars Sylvester Stallone as Dwight Manfredi. We have Andrea Savage as Stacy Beal, the ATF agent. Martin Starr as Bodie, who's fucking hilarious. I love him and everything. Jay Will as Tyson. Max Casella as Armand. We also got Dominic Lombardozzi, Vincent Piazza, a bunch of, I don't want to say a bad word, bunch of Italians, Garrett Hedlund, and those are really like and Richie Costa, who I know from other shows, but these are pretty much the notable cast members of the show. A lot of them have been in like prior mobster things before, so obviously it's fitting that they're in these roles.
Yeah. Well, Chicky was a cop in The Wire.
Yes, he was a cop in The Wire. Vincent Piazza played Lucky Luciano in Boardwalk Empire.
Mm.
This is the story. Dwight Manfredi, he goes to prison for basically for the family. In the beginning of the series, you don't really know what it was for. You think it was on behalf of the family, which it kind of was. You find out later on what it was really for. And when he gets out of prison 25 years later, he's like, all right, let's get back into this shit. Where are we at? What's going on? And he comes home to find that Pete's son, Chicky, has kind of taken over the family. Vincent Piazza's Vince is now a capo. And he was just a little young Thundercat back when Dwight was around. And things have changed, and they say, Dwight, listen, we got nothing for you here. We need you to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, start a business, start making some money. You're going to send us...
Start earning.
Yeah, you're going to send us however much money per month, and we'll check in with you from time to time. And this is, of course, incredibly disrespectful to Dwight, because not only did he go to prison for the family, to protect the family, but he's been a loyal earner for the family for however many years, and very close to Pete, as we find out throughout the 9 episodes. Yeah. When he gets to Tulsa, that's where he meets Martin Starr's Bodie and Jay Will's Tyson. And Tyson is just a cab driver. Martin Starr owns a dispensary, and that becomes Dwight's target for money. He sees
there's a lot of them out here.
I'm sure. He sees that, hey, dispensary could be pretty profitable, and he does the typical mobster thing where he's like, here's the deal. I'm gonna protect you, and you're gonna pay me to do it. I'm gonna take a percentage of your earnings every month.
I protect you, and you pay me a commission. Capiche?
That's really all you're gonna take?
What did I just say? We're partners. You make the money, and I make sure you keep it. Do we have a deal?
Do I have a choice?
Absolutely not.
And that's, the classic mob move, the strong arming of people.
Arm, yeah.
But what I actually thought was really cool is throughout this 9 episodes, they all eventually become like friends, and you find out like Dwight is actually like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they don't ever really frame him as like a piece of shit, but you assume like, okay, he's in the fucking mafia.
He's a gangster. He's done some shit.
Yeah, he's done some bad things, but he respects those that give him respect as well. And you see the dichotomy of that between these two groups. His old family of the mobsters, the mafia family, who aren't giving him respect in way more ways that we come to find out, versus this new family that he becomes friends with. Garrett Hedlund's Mitch owns a local bar, and he's a former soldier, ex-convict as well, and they kind of pair up.
He was a bull rider.
Yeah, but wasn't he in the military? Didn't they mention that?
I'm not sure. I know he was a bull rider for sure, though.
Well, yes, I know that.
He got hooked on pills, but I don't know outside of that.
All right, maybe I'm misremembering. But his bar and restaurant becomes like the meeting place, the home base, so to speak, for this new group,
Yeah.
and eventually becomes another money making plan for Dwight. Now, throughout the course of this 9 episodes, a big part of the plot is that Dwight sort of stopped allowing his daughter to come visit him when he was in prison, and it caused a really big rift between them and his actual family. And now that he's out, he's kind of trying to mend the wounds, and she's obviously a little bit hesitant. And there's a really big, I guess, plot point that comes out where she sort of admits to him that while he was away, one of his cohorts in the mob family sexually assaulted her. And
Yep.
that's sort of the turning point where Dwight is like, all right, nah, fuck these people. They sent me out here. That was strike number 1. They're disrespecting me, strike number 2, but they fucking put hands on my daughter and probably knew about it. That's strike number 3. I'm going to go fucking stomp some heads. And stomp some heads he does. One single head to be
Literal
exact.
heads.
Literal fucking Gears of War curb stomps him into the fucking ground. And
that was a gnarly fight scene sequence.
Yeah. I think the story is really good. I really liked his story. I liked the contrast between
The two families.
well, not only the two families, but the two locations. It's obviously a big part of the show.
Yeah.
I'm from New York. Dusty is from Oklahoma. I have another friend who's from Oklahoma. So it's just a kind of funny personal coincidence that this show takes place in these two areas or is about these two areas, because I'm not a mobster, obviously, but it's pretty, I would say, accurate to how I would be if I went to Oklahoma. Like, I feel like I would be just a complete fish out of water.
Right. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, talking about Yellowstone. We talked about it on this week's podcast, actually, about how, like, you know, these types of like rural areas are, to somebody like me, almost like just out of time. Like, they're just stuck in the fucking 1700s or whatever. Now, I know Tulsa's a city and Oklahoma City and all that stuff, so I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. But the show does a really good job of kind of showing that Dwight is a fish out of water.
Yeah.
You know? Not only a fish out of water in location, but in time itself, because he missed 25 years of his life being in prison.
Right.
And when he comes out, there's fucking cell phones and there's internet and this and that and credit cards. He doesn't have a credit card.
Yeah.
You know, there's some funny moments with like his fish out of water ness, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Where,
You know
like-
about like calling like an Uber or
Yeah.
Yeah.
having to have a card for most purchases. That sort
An
of thing.
ID. Yeah.
An ID. Yeah.
So Dwight's got two problems on his hands. He's got Charles, Chicky, sort of kind of planning to pretty much kill him. And he's dealing with the local meth biker gang leader.
Waltrip.
Yeah, Kalen Waltrip, who's like bad business. No bueno.
Yeah. I felt like Dan a little bit in this because I was confusing Waltrip in this show with that Galen O'Shea guy from Sons of Anarchy.
He was also in the show Happy, which had 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Very good show, and also played like a mob boss type of guy. He's a good villain, this Richie Coaster fella.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
In fact, he's the subject of one of my gripes about this season of the show.
Really?
Yeah, so he was a good villain, and they kind of built him up in a way where you were like kind of not scared of him, but you realized that he was like not a shit taker. Like, he wasn't going to fuck around. You know, he had the police in his pocket. You know, he's in a fucking biker gang of meth dealers. We saw him kill several people just because they fucking like sort of inconvenienced him.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh wow, this is going to be like a pretty huge challenge for our boy Dwight.
Yeah.
And as Dwight is trying to make some money, he's sort of stepping on toes and getting into Callan's territory, and that's how the beef starts. But by the time the beef sort of climaxed in that like final little showdown, it kind of didn't really, it was just sort of just fizzled out. I didn't
Yeah.
think the payoff lived up to the buildup. And that's a common theme that we talk about often with Taylor Sheridan shows, specifically Yellowstone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in Yellowstone. So it's interesting. I wonder if that's actually like just the way he writes to
I
sort
think
of.
it is. He has a real problem with the climax. Like, it's all this build up, like you said, and then it's like, you ever bust a nut and it's like just drizzling out,
No.
and it's like not a very explosive nut. It's like, damn, I could have did a little bit better than that. That was a weak ass nut. You know what I mean? That's how it feels a lot of the times with these.
Marvin, I think you need to have your prostate checked. You have trouble peeing too?
No, not at all. Not
Okay,
at all. I
just
mean,
making sure.
sometimes I'm
All
just
right.
saying.
Listen, I
Sometimes
hear
it
you.
happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
Weak nut. Sometimes.
Dance in denial.
I'm coping.
And in denial.
I don't know if it's a problem, so to necessarily. It might be just the way he writes. Like maybe it's the subversion of expectations, where you expect in normal action movies or stories for these things to have like a huge climactic, like action-packed payoff. Maybe his style of writing is just like, nah, we don't have to do that. Let's just sort of deal with it and move on.
Maybe a
Well,
more real.
more akin to real life. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this
I mean,
show, go ahead.
He does pretty good job of creating conflict and
Yeah.
moving that through seasons. I think the biker gang was basically the level 1 boss for the general here, and they were meant to be pushed out. And in season 2, much like in Yellowstone, the next bad guy is going to be tougher, and it's going to be a bigger problem. It's going to take longer to solve.
Yeah.
More calculations. So I think maybe that's where it gets a little bit misplaced, because I mean, this guy, he had his own biker gang, a small time, rural
Local.
biker gang. They're not, I mean, maybe if he
Yeah.
runs into the Korean mafia next season or something, that'll be more interesting.
You got a big
Right.
Korean mafia problem over there in Oklahoma?
Nah, I mean,
Okay, I
not
was
so much
gonna say.
anymore. Not so much. I mean, they've been around for a long time in Oklahoma,
Right.
and
Damn.
gangbangers and stuff. So, but yeah,
Okay. Well, yeah.
Well, I just want to say Stallone looks good for his age. I felt that he wasn't
does he
moving like
though?
he wasn't moving like a snail in this show. to me.
well, the steroids help. So
He's
you know,
looking a
there's
little
that.
bit old. The fact that he's been so muscular his whole life, now that he's got
Yeah.
that old ass skin, he's starting to
Maybe,
look like he's
yeah.
deflating a little bit. He almost looks like a
But he
ball
really
sack.
wasn't. I mean, he was always a big guy, but it wasn't. I don't think it was till like Rocky 3 or 4 that it really started
Yeah.
focusing on.
Have you seen him in
Being fit.
Cliffhanger?
Yeah.
Have you seen him in fucking
Oh yeah.
like he was fucking
But I mean, if you go back and watch Rocky 1,
Yeah, no,
and
he's
2,
not big
like,
in Rocky
He's
movies.
not that big at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah,
And
no,
some
for
of his
sure.
other movies, like late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
But it was about mid 80s where he really like.
well, that was also
took it
before
to heart.
steroids were invented. So no, I'm
Right.
kidding.
Well, he's old as shit. I mean, he's old as fuck. Do you
Yeah.
think he needed
I was
some?
a little worried when episode 1, when he started monologuing at the opening of the show. I was a little worried because like even he has more of a drawl now than he used to. And maybe
Yeah.
that's just because he's getting old, because it's harder to understand him. Like if you go watch his
Yeah.
older movies,
Well, he's
he
always
talks
had
a lot clearer.
He's always
he's
had,
always
a
had
speech
that
issue.
Sure, yes, he has, and he's got that accent as well, so it doesn't really help. But
Yeah.
he talks a little bit slower, and he has a little bit more of a drawl. So I wasn't sure if it was going to work out, but it seems to. I mean, I don't mind. I can understand what's going on, so I think it's fine. Man.
I've said this when we reviewed the movie. The fuck was the movie where he was the garbage man superhero? Samaritan.
Oh yeah.
I personally just don't think he's a good actor, really. I think he's gotten away with like roles that suited him early on in his career, like Rocky.
Yeah.
He's got some good monologues in some of those movies. He's done some good. He's
Well-
got some good scenes. Great movies. I would say, yeah. He's not. Like
Well-
he's not an A-list. Well, he is, but he's not. I mean,
Well, Rocky is not
hard to describe.
Rocky is not like a huge acting like
not a
character.
huge undertaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a dim-witted sort of slow fighter from Philadelphia. Like that's not
Mhm.
that hard to pull off. So I just feel like he's just an icon now at this point, so he could just do whatever he wants and he gets away with it because it's like, oh, it's fucking Stallone. It's like whatever. He's just being Stallone. Same as like Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's not like a fucking good actor. You know what I mean? He's had his moments, but you know, you're not gonna stand these guys next to people like fucking Tom Hanks or Robert De Niro or anything anytime soon. You know what I'm saying?
Well, real quick, I said initially to you guys that I wasn't really feeling this show. I didn't like it at first.
Yeah, I was gonna
thought
bring
it
that
was
up.
rather boring for the first 2 episodes.
But what did you
But I
find
think-
boring about it though?
It wasn't very interesting. It wasn't. There were some funny moments and stuff like that, but it wasn't much story that was, I guess, pulling me in.
Interesting.
Around episode 3, I think it started to pick up with the assassination attempt on Dwight by our boy Manny.
Yeah.
And that got me to thinking, like, would a mob guy just forgive someone that tried to kill them so easily? And at first thought, I would say, hell no, of course not. But he does have history with Manny, so I guess it's not so
Well-
black and white there. Because Manny was loyal to Dwight all
Right.
those years ago,
Yeah.
as we find out later. And speaking of Manny, I enjoy his rebirth
Yeah.
within the show,
was
like his
nice.
progression, like
Yeah.
of his former mob self. Like we see
He
him go
was
from
so
this
scared.
passive,
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was
like
so scared he
passive,
almost
scared
killed
guy.
somebody
yeah,
on accident. And now
Yeah.
he's like, he's taking it to the right people by,
Well,
having shit in his neighbor's face.
he goes from being passive and scared to beating up the asshole neighbor, and then
Yeah.
like basically fully embracing his old lifestyle.
you also gotta take into account too, and this isn't like me saying like, oh, the mobsters are good people, but they do. The Italian mafia does have like sort of a moral code, and we've learned this in movies like Goodfellas and stuff like that. Like they only fuck with the people that fuck with them. Generally speaking, they're not gonna fucking go after your whole family. They're not gonna fucking. They're just gonna deal with the person that needs to be dealt with. You know what I mean? Which is one of the reasons why what Chicky is doing is like so egregious. That's what's making him such like an interesting villain for me anyway, because he's going that extra mile. Like he's fucking with Dwight's daughter's husband, his son-in-law. He's probably gonna fuck with Tina in future seasons. Like,
Oh yeah,
he's like fully off the rails because he doesn't like Dwight personally because he feels that Dwight got more of his father's love than he ever did. So it's more personal for him. But saying that there's a moral code sort of to the Italian mafia, like you said, Dwight sees like, okay, well, I thought you fucking sold me out, but I'm seeing you didn't. You just gave me some valuable information and you were always loyal to me. So you're cool. Tyson's character arc was pretty interesting to me as well. So he is living at home when we first meet him. He's driving a cab, and his parents are pretty hard on him. Well, hard on him is the wrong word. They want him to like make something of himself and
Right.
you know, get like a career and move out of the house and do all this stuff. And his dad is a working man. He's a working class guy. I think he's like a plumber or some shit.
Yes, plumber.
right.
And he does not take kindly to the fact that he finds out his son is basically being an assistant to a mobster, a gangster.
Yeah.
And eventually Tyson moves out of his house and goes against what his parents want for him and continues to work with Dwight. And I think that's going to have some bigger repercussions going forward because there was a lot of talk about like, you know, even Dwight telling him like, yo, you don't have to be doing this. Like you have a life ahead of you. Like getting involved with me is dangerous. Like you can get killed, arrested, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And Tyson,
I mean, he got shot.
he did get shot. Yeah. I thought for sure he was going to die by the end of the season. I thought it was,
Yeah.
they were
They kinda
building
set
that
it
up.
up.
Yeah.
But you know, Taylor Sheridan likes to have his Avengers
He
families,
does.
so
Yeah.
He does.
these guys were basically
Yeah.
And I think there's more to tell with the father-son storyline too. I mean,
Yeah.
after the fight, Dad walks away and says, that's the last time, basically. But I think
Yeah.
we're gonna see it come
Well,
back around.
I was
a few
going to
times.
bring that up because I really like that. The dad, despite not agreeing
Yes.
with what his son was doing,
Yeah.
he still wanted to
Is
protect
there
his
to help
son.
him.
And
You'll
they
still
got
protect your family.
they got in
yeah.
that brawl with the bikers initially. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that
I
was
cannot
good.
abide by your choices, but I can help you, even though I don't agree
Right.
with your choices.
Because that's a
Yeah.
parent's duty, right?
Great storytelling, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that also is sort of a parallel with Chicky and Pete because Pete really fucking looks down on Chicky. and says it
Yeah.
to him like a lot of times, like you're fucking weak, you're this, you're that, and like you
Yeah.
get that sense, but it's still his son, so like he's part of the family. You know what I mean?
I think Pete's real grievance is not so much that he saw Dwight more as like the favorite son, but he talked a lot about how he didn't get the chance to do what he wanted to do, and his dad just made him become
Chicky
a
said
mobster.
that. Yeah.
Chicky said that about Pete. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was his real grievance, and he got fed up. Like it was like that. I forgot which episode that was when he.
It was one of
actually
the
killed
last
him,
like
but
8. It was like 7 or 8. I think it was
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, probably 7.
But
yeah,
no, you're 100% right. But yeah, I think it was a whole bunch of things that sort of just
Oh, yeah.
accumulated and was like, you just don't respect me. Fuck you. I'm drowning you in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Well, and there's also like he's got this pent up aggression, like he wants to be in charge. He knows he has to take orders from his dad, and he knows his dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's failing, so he just feels closed in, like he can't make any choices, and he's ready to break out on his own. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a lot of pressure from down below from what's his name, Vince,
Vince. Yep.
because
Yeah.
they want to get back, but Pete's
Mhm.
telling them no. So you got pressure coming from
Yep.
so many angles.
I think the end of this season definitely telegraphed a bigger fight ahead of Dwight in terms of Chicky and Vince and the rest of those people. But Dwight has another fight on his hands because in the last episode they hit us with this fucking crazy ass cliffhanger where
Mhm.
he gets arrested by Stacy and the fucking ATF. They've been banging this whole season, and she was helping him out and like doing all this shady shit with him.
not
Yeah.
really. No, she was walking on the fence. I don't think she really
Ooh.
crossed. Did she
Ah.
cross the line?
Yeah, I think.
I
when
mean,
she,
Yes.
okay, so she met him and they banged, right? And then she found out that
Who he
he
was.
is the. Okay, yeah.
and then she continued to bang him and give
Right.
him
Yeah.
information that she had that she shouldn't have given him about what the ATF and FBI
I
were
did
doing.
not like how Stacy betrayed him at the end of it all. Like if you were so serious about your job, you wouldn't have gotten him out of jail and continued fucking with him after you found out who he was.
Right.
It just
I-
felt
I-
really out of place, and it just seems like it was forced there to leave us with the huge cliffhanger that we got in the finale. I didn't like how Bodhi was randomly this crypto supreme lord character with millions of dollars from hacking while also running the dispensary. It kind of felt like too OP. Like this guy,
Well,
he's got all the stats maxed
I
out.
actually
He's just
like
good
that.
at everything.
I like that.
yeah, real quick, I did like that too
I
because
did not. I thought it was too
well,
cheesy.
he has a
Well,
line
okay.
of dialogue. Wait, one
Yeah.
second. He says that, what do you think? You're the only fucking person who you're the only person
Yeah.
who could do a crime. And
It was
and-
just a plot device so that he could steal the money from Wall Trip.
you would think though,
That's
but
all it was.
But hang on, if you look at the two characters, Dwight is he's from a very specific time period. Dwight comes from an era where you made money by owning clubs, by owning strip clubs, by bars, this,
Right.
that, and the other thing, strong arming people. And Bodhi is the new generation type of moneymaker. We've had personal conversations amongst us just about how there's different new ways to make money that boomers don't know about. So I think that was a cool little thing because while Bodhi is initially introduced as just like this little fucking meek weed dealer,
Yeah.
yeah,
he's
There's more
actually
depth to him.
he's
Yeah.
actually going to be Dwight's
I-
right-hand man.
I get that, but I just feel like why would he was already running a dispensary making all this money, hundreds of $1,000s, whatever. They could have gave that role to someone else. They just make this. They just make this. Like I said, it's like another fucking Avenger type character. Like he's just good at everything. He has a dispensary. He's a fucking
He's Tony
hacker.
Stark, yeah.
Not only is he a crypto hacker, but he knows how to hack into this guy's account and steal his money. Like it's just too much.
If you actually look at all the characters, you're not wrong in the whole Avengers thing, but each person in his gang has their
Yeah.
own skill set. So
The only like normal one was like the black dude. What was the black dude's name?
Tyson.
Tyson.
Yeah.
But
He's like the most normal one of the bunch.
right, but if you think too, so Grace, the chick who worked for Bodhi, she was like a fucking sharpshooter
Right.
because of her
Like,
dad. But that's what I'm
but
saying.
that was
they-
fine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of
That
fun.
was
be-
awesome.
It's kind of fun because they all sort of have their own unique skill set that they could bring to the table
Yeah,
to create
Yeah.
this fucking empire.
that's
thus,
true.
Thus coining him the
Yeah, I
Tulsa
mean,
King.
I guess it's just like too perfect. Like
Yeah, but that's part of
like
I-
a no- like a-
there's some convenience to him having that, but when you are putting a crew together like this, you do have to have talents and skills and abilities that are varied.
Yes.
You know, So
For sure, but like when I think of a mob family, it's not a bunch of fucking super cracked out
Well, I was just
individuals
gonna.
with a lot of skills. They're just like fucking strong arm.
I think we're used to in mob movies and shows or just content, it's like a very realistic take on what that lifestyle's like. The Sopranos, which you've recently watched, is a pretty like realistic take on mob shit. Goodfellas is based on a true story. My fucking dad knew the fucking security guard at Lufthansa who got fucking pistol whipped for them to get into the so like that's a true story.
That's
like
funny.
I think Casino's based on a true story. Like so they're all more like grittier, more real life accounts of that lifestyle. This is more of like a fantasy version of that. This is, I think,
well, it's more of a plausible new age. Like, I don't know that he's building mafia in Tulsa. He's just putting a crew together.
Yeah, he's just putting a crew together.
Earning.
Yeah.
Now, that may eventually grow into something else when he runs into more people like the biker gangs and shit. But I think for right now, he's just trying to earn money, and he's got a pretty good crew to do it.
But the skill sets of all these people is on the fantastical side of things. Like,
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Like, he's an expert hacker. She's a sharpshooter. This one's a fucking whoever. You know what I mean? Like, that's the more fantastical thing of it. I don't think this is meant to be like a Goodfellas type of thing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more fun, flight from reality a little bit. So I think that's the reason why maybe you found that stuff a little bit off.
Yeah. I also didn't like how easily they set up this basic ass trap for the biker gang. Somebody that is smart enough to amass several $1 million would not simply, I feel like they would just not simply walk into this sort of trap. And
I mean,
just get your whole crew taken out. Like, you're the boss. You shouldn't even be there, really.
Well, I think
he had to take matters into his own hands because he's getting pushed around because somebody else new in town is moving in on his territory. So it pushed him to make irrational decisions. Like, normally, you're right. He would probably make better decisions, but he was forced into a corner and had to react. That's how I saw it.
Not just somebody with way more experience too.
Right.
Than he had.
That's
like
true.
He's this yokel fucking local. He's not even local. He's fucking Irish or Scottish or whatever he was. So he's just like this like local fucking local yokel, for lack of a better word. Like, and now you got this big time fucking former mafia capo who's fucking coming into town. Like, you ain't gonna know how to really deal with that, other than just like, all right, we got to fucking all hands on deck. We got to go shoot him up.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, it was a pretty small biker crew, so it's not like they had a whole army to send out.
And in desperation, you make mistakes. Like, fuck it, we're going in, guns ablazing, not really thinking that you're gonna get stabbed up against a fucking deer head or moose head or whatever the fuck it was on the wall.
I mean, I sound like I hated the show, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. And I definitely would want to see like a second season to see what happens between Chicky and Dwight and how that plays out.
Yeah, no, I was hooked right away again. I thought it was great. The cliffhanger I thought was really great. I'm excited as well to see a season 2. Hopefully there will be a season 2. There were some interviews with Stallone going around where he was like, I totally did not expect how hard it would be to shoot a season of a show. Like, my background is in movies, and it's like one and done, you're out. This was apparently way more intense than he expected. Right. So there's some speculation that, he's fucking 78. This fucking took a lot out of him. Like, will there be a season 2 or 3? I mean, this is the type of show where I don't need it to go 5-6 seasons. Like, if they just do a 1 and 2 season and it's done, that I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Wrap up some of the characters. So we'll see what happens, but I really enjoyed it overall. It's got an 8.2 on IMDb, which is pretty high. I'll give it an 8, honestly. I would give the show an 8. How about you guys?
I did enjoy this show. I gotta bump it down a little though. I'll probably give this like a 7.
Well, I hate to grade things high. But I'll give it an 8. I love it.
Okay.
It's a good show. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. It was good. Real quick, you think Stallone needed some Viagra to get it up for Stacy, or do Italians just keep fucking forever? What do you think?
I'm not at that age yet where I could confidently tell you, but who knows? We'll see.
Who knows?
Yeah, I am Italian.
At 80, he probably needs a little help.
He probably needs a little bit.
A little bump.
I love when she was like, she's like, you're how old? Oh my God. And she was like, grave robbing. But
that shit's funny.
There you have it, folks. There's our thoughts on Tulsa King, the latest from our boy, Taylor Sheridan. If you've watched it, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you haven't watched it, we all recommend checking it out. If you have not done so already and enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. You can also click on that playlist over there to see some of the other shows that we've talked about in the past. But until then, we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Basta.